How healthy are the Florida State Seminoles, and what's the impact going to be for the Pittsburgh game?
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Seminoles. I am your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making Locked On Seminoles a part of your day each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet $5, and if it wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. Speaking of get started, Florida State's defense needs to restart. That's something we're going to be talking about during this show because they've given up too many big plays, too many missed angles on tackling opportunities, too many misses in the secondary on who's supposed to be where. All of a sudden, it's coming unraveled. We're going to get into that later in the show. We're also going to discuss a lot of statistics from both Pittsburgh and Florida State, Pro Football Focus, national stats for Pittsburgh on offense and defense, and a quarterback and running back for Pitt that Florida State fans need to know about. But to start, and the main crux of this show, Florida State injuries. I am under the belief that there are more guys banged up than what Norvell or any of the staff are really letting on, and the numbers are pretty straightforward. Look back at last week as my evidence for number one on why Florida State's injuries are concerning. Flat out, they are concerning. Rodell Williams was discussed ad nauseum last week. He got 4 reps. Did he re-injure himself during the week, or were Florida State's coaches lying? Is it a combination? 4 reps. That doesn't sound like a guy that's healthy to me because you were playing your rival, and he was your starting running back against Alabama. Yet he got 4 carries. I'm not buying that. So with that being stated, you could use it for a barometer, but here are a few of the guys that I'm concerned about. We had heard Kevin Wynn was getting close, and he played around 10 reps or so. The true freshman nose guard, really rare and talented young man from the state of Georgia. I'm hoping that he can play more this week. At some point, Daryl's going to hit a wall. He's getting double teamed constantly. He's playing nose guard in a 3-man line, and he's the most gifted guy up front. They're going to double him. The more Kevin Wynn can get in there, along with Daniel Lyons, everybody else too. They rotate it in a unique way because they play some 1-gap, 2-gap. They do a little bit of different things with their 3-man front. And I like that from Tony White. It makes it a little more difficult for other teams to figure out. But I'd still like to have Wynn in there a lot. He's 330 pounds. He is a rare specimen. I hope he's ready to go, like really ready to go, and he can play 20 or more reps. And then you'd have him and the Desir twins at the 2 power end spots. Like that's a really bright future for Florida State, but having Wynn healthy is a big deal. Let's move over to the offensive side of the ball, but keep it along the line of scrimmage. Micah Pettis didn't play very much in this past game. He got banged up. Things went sideways. Pass pro was bad, and I'll throw up the numbers here in a second. It is really bad for what Pro Football Focus thought. I didn't think it was bad as what they had, but it was still pretty awkward. Can he be ready this week against Pitt? I'll get into it more specific in a minute, but this is another traditional Panthers defense. They blitz on almost every down. Like, it's insane. I just went back and watched some of the highlights for Pittsburgh versus BC, and they held BC 7 points. I think the BC's kind of quit. They're terrible. But they don't care. They're coming after you. Speed rushers, undersized guys, they want to rush off the edge. If Pettis does not play, like just 0 reps, who's going to be the starter and why? I don't think Florida State has somebody they're comfortable with starting at tackle other than Pettis. I really don't think they do. Based on how things looked in the Miami game is why I say that. Having stated it, Pittsburgh doesn't have Ruben Bain nor Akeem Mesidor. So that's helpful, but they do have a couple of guys that are pretty good. Defensive line, they've got one guy with 4.5 tackles for loss and 2 sacks. That's Blaine Spires, pretty good player. Defensive tackle, Francis Brewer, 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss. And true freshman, Zach Carruthers, 3 tackles for loss, 1.5 sacks. They've got a balance there, and they've got several guys with like 1 sack. They bring blitzes from all over. Will the new offensive lineman, whoever it is, if Pettis doesn't play, or if he has to come out for any length of time, be in coordination with the other guys, because they're going to run stunts. They're going to do blitzes in combination. They're going to do fires up. They're going to do a little of everything. And they're going to play tight underneath coverage. Chance for Deuce to go off. We'll talk about that a little bit throughout this week. But they're going to take away some of those easy access throws to try to get you to hold on to the ball longer. Tommy's not the biggest guy, and that pocket's going to be coming at him. I think they could put some pressure on Florida State, especially if Pettis doesn't play. That's a really big injury concern for the Noles. Also, Squirrel White played, but he wasn't that effective. I'm not convinced that he's really all that healthy. Maybe he is, and Miami just did a good job, or Tommy just didn't find him that much. But I was disappointed. He was one of the guys that I really wanted to see Florida State get the ball to. They failed. For whatever reason, it just didn't work out. They really couldn't find Squirrel, and it killed them. Is he banged up more? Is McCoy just passing him by? I don't know. McCoy played pretty well, all things considered, for a redshirt freshman. That's good news. But they need both, not one or the other. The answer is always both. If Squirrel gets the ball and starts making plays in the screen game and short underneath routes, it's really going to help move the chains. That's what he's been known for throughout his career. I would like to see him prove it, that he's healthy. And then, again, maybe it's just him and Tommy aren't working real well together, but they got to get him going, because teams are just going to start doubling Deuce and saying, screw you guys. Somebody else beats us, that's fine, but Deuce is your only playmaker. Right now, that's pretty much true. They throw the running backs pretty well, but overall, Florida State really doesn't do a very good job with the other receivers. It has been the Deuce Robinson show, and to a certain degree, that's okay. And when Wayne's coming on, Boggs hasn't gotten a ton of receptions, so I got a few. Those guys all have to contribute more. Who's really healthy out of the group? I don't know, because they've all been banged up at one point in time since fall camp to now. How many are really lingering injuries? That is my question, and I'm not sure that there's a definite answer. And then, how about Landon Thomas? That's got to happen sooner than later. They need to be able to throw the ball in the middle of the field, and he's 6'5". Like, he's an extra blocker and all that for your run game. That's great. But Landon Thomas as a receiving threat, especially against teams that blitz their backers and safeties, middle of the field's going to be open. And he's a very inviting target. Is he really healthy? And is Tommy in sync with him as well? That's a big question. And then finally, Ashwin Barker, he was out for the Miami game, and it showed. Coach Coop talked about, he told Barker that in spring that you're an NFL player. The length, the speed, the instincts, the physicality. Ashwin Barker coming out of the lineup against Miami, I think cost him at least a touchdown. He might be your best safety. It's debatable. And right now, for whatever reason, Earl Little was high early in the season and then low later in the season. They've got to get him back. I don't know what the injury is. And again, I don't trust the reports from coaches. I was proven right about that, unfortunately, again last week. But that's a difference maker with his length, speed, his physicality, all those things. They need him against Pitt. They're a decent offense. So these are some of my injury concerns. Florida State just seems to be lingering with a bunch of key guys banged up, and there's probably some others too. But like Cam Davis, when's he going to be back? I'm not sure. They need their key guys back. And not just able to play, but like full go. Florida State needs a little luck on the injury front. When we come back, we're going to talk about the numbers. There's some surprising statistics across the board, not just with Florida State, but with Pittsburgh. They've got a freshman quarterback that's really good. We'll talk about that next here on Locked on Seminoles. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Peloton. It's shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. It's the most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or cross-training with your favorite instructors. This is training reimagined. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with tools that help you plan, stay motivated, and reach peak performance. Whether you like to run more, whether you need an instructor to get you motivated, or any other kind of CrossFit, Peloton IQ will help you out. So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus today at onepeloton.com. We are also brought to you by our friends at Square, where they are all about the neighborhood and finding the best neighborhood spots. Also, run on Square. There are certain businesses that make the neighborhood the neighborhood. These are the places that become an extension of your home, whether it's the sports bar dedicated to your team's fan base, the spot with the best wings in town for game day, or that beloved local chain that's been rooted in your community for years. These businesses are what people find and they go to hang out and be together. When the neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood also thrives. For me, that's certainly true. There were a couple of different places where I grew up, one even on the street that I lived on, that everybody used to go to hang out, have fun, and talk. That's a great thing. And with Square, the place that you put down your debit or credit card on top of it to tap, they're all there for you as well. So take yourself to your local eatery or whatever it is. Maybe it's dry cleaners or anything else. Support your local businesses. And Square wants to do that too. They've got over 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world they do business with. And you can go to square.com/go/LockedOnCollege to learn more. Before you do, go support your local neighborhood spot. You'll be happy you did. Square. See you in the neighborhood. And finally, we are brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if it hits, you'll get $300 in bonus bets. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the FanDuel app. Over-unders, halftime scores, player props, parlays, and anything else you could imagine, FanDuel's got you covered. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Thank you once again for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Please like and subscribe if you have not already. Become an everydayer here on Locked On Seminoles. Now let's talk a little bit about some pro football focus numbers. First thing I want to show is an opportunity for Florida State to get a pass rush going. There have been a few guys banged up for Pittsburgh. Their offensive tackle was hurt, and we'll see which guys play. Again, injury reports are very, very important, but which ones are really accurate. I'm going to show the pro football focus numbers for Pittsburgh in pass pro, run blocking, and just kind of go through it. But they have some question marks. If Florida State cannot pass rush against Pitt, it's not going to bode well for the rest of the season. So here are some of the numbers to discuss. The starters are about the first 15 guys or so, the ones that play the most, but the starters are the ones with the star there over on the left. And in particular, the player that I think is most important to note is right here, Ryan Bayer. He played and didn't grade out in the 60s for any category. I'm not saying he's terrible, but his pass blocking grade was 52. That's not very good. Florida State needs to take advantage of that. Their left guard also graded out at 59% in pass pro. That's not that great either. Can they get some pressure? Maybe there's a couple opportunities there they can do that with. And if that's the case, they got a chance. They truly do. They've also got a few guys that are probably going to be moving around. There may be some other opportunities. There's a guy named Stanley that came into the lineup. He ended up having an 82 pass protection grade. But overall, I just don't think that's a great unit. And to be really honest with you, I don't think that there's any chance that they're going to be that great overall on offense, but they've got enough skill and enough talent to kind of get it there. And this is where it's wild. If you look at the passing, he's only a freshman making his first start. What an introduction to college football. Mason Heinchel, 30 of 41, 73.2%, 323 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. He's a freshman. It's crazy. So Florida State needs to get pressure on him. Watching his film, I didn't even need to get into those stats. Gets the ball out quick, knows where he's going, strong arm. He's 6'2", 6'3", 215 pounds. He's from a very small area in Ohio, like Oregon, Ohio, wherever that's at. This is one of those under-the-radar recruits that oftentimes end up at a Pittsburgh. He wasn't recruited by Ohio State or Michigan or any schools like that, but he ends up at Pitt. And now he's doing pretty well. So if they don't get pressure, that's a possibility for some problems because he's accurate. Like he was legitimately accurate even under pressure. And as for running the football, they've got a few guys that are decent. But to be really honest with you, just looking at that game overall, the Goff kid I thought had really good feet. They don't run block that well overall as a unit. But Jules Goff, 1 touchdown run, 59 yards, only 3.5 yards to carry. You're like, he's not that great. He didn't have a lot of places to go, but he makes the first guy miss. He's pretty talented. The Turner kid's got a little more power than you might think with his size. He can kind of fall forward, and he's quick too. He's another guy that's got some talent. But overall, their run game is complementary. They're going to pick you apart with middle of the field throws are kind of risky. Boston College doesn't have the guys to play man. They're playing some zone, and they'll take a few shots. I mean, Heinzel, again, he had 4 touchdown passes. So those are some of the keys there. But then you get into the defensive numbers for Pittsburgh. And needless to say, if you look at their pass rush, you don't really see anything just dominant per se, but they bring it from so many different angles. Their goal is to get what I would just call a freebie, to get a free rusher, to get a sack to rattle a guy. And oftentimes they do. Hopefully for them, they get fumbles and they get guys to throw the ball right when you're walking right into them, and ball pops up in the air. They're looking for turnovers more than anything else. And they put their DBs on an island. They've done it for years. That's not going to change. But looking at the pass rush numbers, they're not that great. Weak side linebacker, Rasheem Biles, he's supposed to be one of their better players. He's a guy that's been around a while. I'm not sure if he's going to be blitzing a ton, but that's one of the things he's able to do, and he's pretty consistent across the board in terms of his grades. I would be surprised if they don't bring a lot of heat. And by the way, their linebackers have 3 picks this year. Underneath passes can go the other direction with Pitt. They do a decent job in coverage. And finally, their DBs aren't that bad either. So I'll be curious to see what they do overall. I would imagine that like Brookins had an 89 grade in pass coverage this last week. They'll probably try to stay away from him, etc. But with Deuce, you just throw it up, let him go make a play. There aren't many guys that can guard him. But Florida State's got to pick their spots otherwise in the back 7. Pittsburgh's got some pretty good players. As for the numbers in regards to Florida State, I think that this is a little bit surprising for me. Here's what I mean. Statistically, Florida State still got one of the best rushing offenses in the country and all that, even after the Miami game. But can they get up to the level they need to against Pittsburgh, who's polar opposite of what Miami does? Miami rush 4 the majority of the time, occasional blitz, and drop people. Pittsburgh's coming after you. They try to stop the run. And here are their numbers in terms of their ability. I don't know if this is going to hold against Florida State because, again, it's a really unique matchup with Gus's offense against them. But here we go. Defensively, they're 12th in the nation with 16 sacks, 64.6 yards allowed a game rushing. That's number 2 in the country. Passing defense, they've given up some big plays because they do take chances. 227.2 yards a game. That's 81st. Total D, 291.8. That's 22nd. Scoring, it's 37th in the nation, 19.6. Again, they give up some chunk plays. Florida State's got to hit some passes. Offensively, they're okay in some of these categories, but the only one that is shocking to me that they've been really good at is throwing the football. They've got a bevy of guys that just have good hands and make plays, 307 yards a game through the year, 15th in the nation. But they're only 90th in sacks allowed, allowing 12. Their offensive line struggles in pass pro. Rushing the football, they're 110th. They're barely over 100 yards. And total offense, they're 49th. Even with that good passing game, only 423 yards a game. 12th, 41 points a game. They've hit big plays. So I'm curious to see what Florida State can do. I'm not as concerned about their raw numbers per se as much. But Jules Goff, 45 carries, 175 yards. I think he's a key. Screen game, first and second down runs. Make Mason Heinzel play from behind the sticks, and Florida State's got a better chance. If they don't, there could be some problems. The other guy that I'm kind of curious about, Shadarian Harrison, 22 tackles and a pick. He's a kid from Lakeland. This will be a big game for him. That's a kid I know. He's really long. He's really athletic. I'll be curious to see how Florida State attacks him. Finally, I want to just talk about Florida State's defense for a second. They've got to do a better job. I talked about Ashwin Barker coming back. I don't know his status, but if he does not play, am I as confident on tackling? No. And that's one really long guy that's not in the lineup to knock away passes. Tremendous length for Ashwin Barker. That's not good. Shaheem Brown played a little better, and he's had a chance to come in the lineup because Barker didn't play. But you just need really good players rotating. It's going to be hot. It's still Florida, early October. We need to see what Florida State can do in conditions that are not only about the temperature, it's the pressure. Florida State loses this game, their season is sunk. They need all their guys. I'm going to go back to that injury point. But the other thing that I want to see, they've got to be able to take advantage of what I just showed statistically. Pittsburgh has a mediocre offensive line. It's not great. Solid, but it's not great. And at some spots, it's below average. It's one thing not to be able to pass rush against Miami. It's another against Pittsburgh. There have to be plays where they not only make the quarterback's feet move and he throws it away, they got to get some guys on the ground. This is a freshman quarterback. Although he's good, he was really good. I watched the film. If you can't get him on the ground, you got Clemson coming up. You got NC State. He's got an experienced quarterback. Florida's playing much better. If you don't, and to be honest, if you don't cause Heinzel some problems, I'm telling you, I know he's a freshman. Unless you go back and watch it, he's very accurate. Florida State plays zone, and normally against freshmen, I'm cool with that. Against this kid, that gives me some pause. I could see a lot of 3rd and 5s going Pittsburgh's way. Find a way to get home with 4. I've been saying it for weeks. Until Florida State does, the defense is just not going to get past where they need to be. This is a key game for them to prove that they can take that next step. If they have to start bringing a lot of different exotic blitzes and all that, I don't know if that's going to work, but at some point they're going to have to try. I know Tony is more of a drop guy than rush guy, but I'm telling you, Heinzel can spin it. He's got a pretty good arm too. He'll go up top every now and then, but he's very happy to nickel and dime you for 6 yards at a time and keep the chains moving, make it a little bit easier on their pedestrian running game. Again, offensive line's not great. I like the running backs, but I just don't think the offensive line's that great. You've got to find a way to create more havoc. I'm curious to see what the Noles come up with this week. Again, it's freshman quarterback, but I really like what Florida State's opportunity is here because we're going to learn a lot. They can't do it against this line and the freshman quarterback. This season's not going to continue in a way that myself, Florida State folks want it to. Really big opportunity. Thank you once again for making Locked On Seminoles a part of your day each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Please like and subscribe. If you're on Apple, hit that automatic download. We will see you again soon here on Locked On Seminoles.